All right, so this is going to be a lot of work, and it's something to talk about because, we have to do a better job when we talk to our customers and figure out what they exactly want. What this customer is asking for. Not our customer at Crystal DTF, but the customer that's requesting the shirts. They're wanting a big sticker. It sounds like on their shirt, like they're wanting to put a giant sticker, square on a shirt, and that's just not going to feel good. Our industry suffers from, basically people not understanding how t-shirts work. We want to keep the ink as little as possible, and what they're asking for is just this big square. So that's not going to feel good on the shirt. It's going to make our industry seem low quality and poor quality because we're not doing any real t-shirt design. We're just taking pictures and trying to put them on a shirt. Plus, I mean, obviously, this is a real challenge when you've got something like this, and you've got, basically an image here that they've sent us. So I'm sure the customer sent it, and it's about 3 inches, maybe 3.5 inches wide, the whole image. I'll open it up with Photoshop here and take a look. So the actual artwork that they've sent, we'll just get an approximate, is about an inch and a half by, it's an inch and a half by an inch and a half. And it's distorted, so you've got that distortion to deal with first and foremost. So what we've got to do is just, copy that and then, get on a new image here. And then what we're going to do is just expand this canvas by quite a lot, just to give ourselves lots of room. Just give ourselves some room to work. And then we've got to try to fix the distortion. So, we can go on certain things, like we know that countertop should be straight. So let's put a ruler down there close to that countertop, and we can imagine that shelf line should be straight. And then we also know that there should be a line over here that's the side of the image, and this line over here, which is kind of straight, which is really hard because of the angle of the picture. So, all right, so now we're just going to take that and we're going to do edit, transform, perspective, and we're going to just do our best. There's not too much you can do here. I mean, we're going to try to pull this down, get that top kind of straight. We know we've got to pull this over. So that's getting better. So we're going to have to pull this bottom out. We don't want to. So we'll stop that transformation there, and then we'll do Control T because it was taken at a downward angle. So we're looking for things that might help us understand what the vertical is. I'm looking for that. I'm just looking for her proportions to be a little bit better, I guess. Maybe something like that. And then we'll go back to perspective. We'll do edit, transform, perspective, and try it. Look, there's that shelf. There's that countertop. Let's just get a ruler down there where we can see it. So the countertop's getting close. So we just need to pull this out. We can pull this in a little bit. We got a straight line there. Is this fairly straight here? Yeah, this is pretty close. Let's look at this bottom edge. It's pretty close. Yeah, that countertop is getting closer to straight there. Almost straight on this edge. Let's pull that. We'll shift this just a touch more, and we'll say that that is sort of okay. All right. All right, so there's a lot of confusing information that, we're going to have to use ChatGPT. That's the only way you can even begin to start fixing something like this, unless you were going to redraw it completely. But we're going to just have to crop this. Let's just come inside slightly on all of these. And that says happiness is homemade. We'll just take it right there because we want to just get rid of the conflicting information. Okay, and we could say that's it. And then we can use this to make a selection. So use our rulers to make a selection and then crop it. All right, so there we have something. All right, and then let's just use generative expand and see what happens here. We're just going to just see if generative expand can at least get us to the top of that hat. Yeah, it's not too bad. I mean, it's not good, but it's certainly better than what it was. So these elements, we're going to need the bottom of this counter, and we're going to want things to be fixed. So we're going to want to remove like this. Oops, that was a bad. Let's just see if we can remove this. And this cake pan, this needs to be ended at some point. This thing's got to go. We're done with our rulers, so we'll just clear our guides. Let's see, clear the guides. View. Guides, clear guides. Okay. Yeah, there's all sorts of mess over there. But, trying to come up with a strategy for how to make this not feel like a sticker, she has to be cut off at some point. I think we just isolate her. And then we put the Scott Farm treats at the bottom and cut this out of it. All right, here we go. So it's time to get organized. So we're just going to do a new folder. We're going to do Scott Farm treats. All right, and we'll pull that into it. And I think somewhere I might have accidentally just exported. Yeah, right here. Wrong project folder there, Mike. And we'll put this in here. And we're just going to make a concept folder, because that's all these are, just concepts. And just move that in there. And now we're ready to go to ChatGPT. All right, so that's my prompt. I've given some backstory and explained what we need. And let's just see what we get. It's always a roll of the dice. And you can pause the video and read the prompt if you're interested. So I'm loving what I'm seeing. I'm going to save it. It's not done. Okay, yeah, it is done now. I think it's done a great job. Exactly what I asked for. Only thing is this is a little cut off, but we can work with this. Happiness is homemade, handmade with love, Scott Farm treats, baked with love. Got some great stuff going on here. Let's just go ahead and download that. Don't like that lost edge back there, but we can handle that. And then this, I like how the countertop is just disappearing. We can work with this. Okay. So I really think we need to get a logo going for the Scott Farm treats. So let's look at our concept. So there's the Scott Farm treat. So that's the basic look. Yep. Okay. I'm just going to take a screenshot of that. Just the part I care about. All right. One of the reasons I make these videos is to explain, why there's going to be tons of changes to the design. Like, I just can't redraw this person. I mean, I can from that image, but, that's going to be hours and hours. And there might be small changes that are going to happen when it goes through this process. So that's important to note. So let's try to get that Scott Farm treats. I'll write my prompt. I probably should have started a new chat window for this, but it's such a simple request. I think it can handle it. And so I've asked for orthographically rendered. That means flat, straight on version of this logo. Recreate and redraw it. Don't try to edit it. Black, isolated on white, suitable for vector tracing. Okay. And I think it's done it. It looks decent. All right. So our first move is going to be upscale. And we're just going to upscale both of these. We'll do this one. We just need 2x on this one. Just a little bit bigger. And it fixes a bug. I haven't checked on the bug in a while because I just expect it. But there's a bug when you download from ChatGPT. And then this one we're going to go big with. We want to go really big so we can chop that background off. So we'll go 5x. That's getting it out to 5610. Okay, so let's name our assets. We're just going to rename both of these. I'm going to put those in our folder. And then we're going to make a folder in here called pieces. These are like our pieces that we're putting together to make the artwork. Okay, and let's just trace that logo trace. So with any graphics like this, you're just going to want to pull them in and pull them into Inkscape and go to Trace Bitmap and just hit apply. And then you can delete the image and then we can see if it's centered. So we don't want to trust that things are centered. I don't think they are. Control-Shift-K to break it all apart. And then each line that needs to be centered. Control-K that. We'll select this. Control-K. And we'll select this and Control-K. And then we'll select all of it now that they're individual pieces. And we will center them. Awesome. All right, Control-Shift-R. And then we're going to do File, Save. And we'll just save this as in our Scott Farm Treats, in our pieces, and we'll just call this logo. All right, still thinking about how we're going to use this. So we're just going to start a new document. And we're going to go with 6,000 for the width and 9,000 for the height. It's really big, but I want to have room to work with stuff. And really tall also. Just going to keep that in mind because I just made that really tall. And we're going to bring that in and drop it. I'm going to make it a little smaller just to start with. It's a smart object, so when I drop it, I'm not actually affecting the pixels here. And then we'll just pop into the smart object and we'll take this background off. What do you think about that? I think I just want to take it off in here. Let me just do that. I'll go ahead and rasterize that layer. Because we've got some, yeah, there we go. Hold on. Image trim, transparent. Let's see if we can't get this side of the cake dish with generative expand. Let's just try. Yeah, not bad, actually. So just a little bit to do there. It rounded that off pretty well. So when we take this off, we just want to have a layer above it. And we'll just do a pen tool because it's a curve. And we'll just round this out. So we'll just make sure we got a stroke, 5 pixels. Wow, I'll just type it in, Mike. No fill. We'll start here. We'll pull this to match that curve. And we'll just round it off. Yep. Yeah, I don't think anybody's going to notice that. Look at me being picky. Okay. Still trying to decide what to do down here. We'll cross that bridge. All right, let's go. We're going to do 100 on our tolerance. We're going to get the spots that we might miss first. That just went all the way around. Okay, so I'm going to go and hold shift and get all of this hair. Okay, so now here we're down at the bottom where we've got some real, decisions to make. So we want to just start by, fixing this. We're going to select this along here. because the selection just drove right into this whole thing. So we'll just go like that, and we'll make that happen. So looks like I missed a little. Just don't want a little bit of weird stuff there. So we'll just get that. And I've been contemplating this shadow, what to do with something like this. This is tough, This is why we need to know what color stuff's going on, because if it's just going to go on a multitude of colors, we really have to ask the customer, like, what do you want? What color do you want this on? We can, we can decide to just cut that off, and that's probably what we have to do. Let's do that. We're going to do magnetic lasso. We're going to hold shift. We're going to go into it and then try to follow. Magnetic lasso can't tell the difference down there. All right, that's fine. That's fine. We're just going to have to draw it. So lasso tool. Wow, and I've got a really unstable hand today. So I'm just going to have to follow this and go along that edge. And I'll just do that all the way around to here. And then I'm just going to try to follow this contour of this marble. Oh, no. I have... yeah, we can. This is marble. We're going to take that outer edge. So I'm going to, switch back to my magnetic lasso. And we're going to let this be the marble. That's what's happening here. This is the marble edge. Now that we have that worked out, we know what we're doing. So we're just going to grab that. We're going to follow this. And then we're just going to transition over here. And we're not going to worry about it much because it's just we're going to go along this marble edge. And hopefully it works out. You never know until you're done what's going to look good. We'll let that be our edge. Obviously don't have to follow it exactly, but it's nice to have some little contours to ride along. Yep, we'll just follow right over to this shadow. And we'll just follow that shadow down. And we can't have that transition be weird like that. We've got to force that to be nice. So we're just going to click, click, click. And we'll let it cut off there. Yeah, we'll let it cut off there. We'll grab this and we'll just pull this in. Just tighten that up. And that's fine. All good, all good, all good. Okay, so this may be, well, look, there's that big section in the middle. So we want to Alt select around there. So that may be our chop. And I'm struggling with whether I want to, we'll merge this down. We'll merge all this down. I'm struggling with whether I want this to be, yeah, do I want that countertop there? Is that what we want? I'm just thinking through it, just processing it. We're trying to find all the spaces that we can let the shirt come through to make the design not feel like a big sticker. And I was thinking we'd put that logo over the bottom, but we might need to put it over the top. So let's just chop it. That's what I'm struggling on. Can I handle a black edge? And I don't think I can. So I do have to expand. I'm going to do select, modify, expand. Nope, not contract. Select, modify, expand. I'm going to go in 1 pixel. So I don't have little white halo edges. And we'll delete. And then we'll look at that on black. and see, judge ourselves. Look, there's some mistakes. So we're just going to take this and nail that. We'll do select, modify, expand to keep things the same. And delete from the right layer. And then to deal with all these fringe elements, I think we're just going to have to paint them. We're going to paint them black. So we're just going to use our brush tool. We're going to go out a little bit with it. We're going to, yeah, we can have a soft brush for this because we got a hard edge. And we'll just do black all along these little areas. So it's just stuff's not shining at us. We just don't want it to shine. We'll let the little highlights and stuff of her hair just stay inside. So that should be wiping out a lot of the little weird edges. Yeah, at least it's not as noticeable. Okay. And it doesn't look crazy against white. Nope, I think it looks great. Okay, now that we've got her isolated, let's get our room back. Let's just do canvas size. And we're just going to go width and height. We're going to go 2,000 pixels to give ourselves some room around. This is already going to feel a lot better than the big sticker. But let's just look at where we could position this logo. Let's throw the logo on it. So, you know, by putting a big logo on the design, you know, we're actually fixing the problem of the sticker in a way, because we're actually like, we've got something to break the sticker up with, you know, whether it's, you know, chopping this out of it, you know. I think I like that. I don't want to lose her. Happiness is homemade, or handmade with love, or her ring completely. But what we could do is we could just set that on there. And that's showing us where our center line is too, because that point right there, let's just find our center. Yeah, that's a pretty good center, actually. It's very balanced. And then we can just control click this logo. And we can do select, modify, expand. We can go like 20 pixels maybe. And then we can just take this and do a layer mask from transparency. No. Layer mask, hide selection. And just kind of chop that out. And that's also going to lighten up that big sticker. Let's look at that on white. I think it looks nice. And look at that on black. Of course, it's going to look crazy. But for that, if you needed to do that on black, you do blending options and do a color overlay on this. So you had that white. So I think that amount that we chopped that out is tasteful. I think it helps break up the fact that there's like an edge down here. And it's just kind of hiding all of that. So that's what your design is. We also could have made that larger. So let's experiment with that. Let's do this. Let's just, the more we make this big, the more it's going to cut out of the design. So we'll just go ahead and delete that layer mask. And it's also going to make her relatively smaller to the print since she's going to be the heaviest part. So it's just a little bit of change can actually go a long way here. Oops. Yeah, let's just scoot her up. So this is our character. And let's just scoot her up. And that's going to help this transition edge down here. The only thing is it's getting into her ring, and I don't like that. It's okay. I mean, it's, you know, pruning without pity. All right, let's select it. Select, modify, expand. I'm going to go a little more this time, just like 25 pixels. And then, yeah, we can still see her ring. And then here we'll do our layer mask, reveal selection, no, hide selection. And that is kind of our final look on a white shirt. Let's look at that on pink. Not as good. Not as good on pink. I think on pink, you would need to, well, we probably just need to tell her she needs to put this on a white shirt. But, to do pink, I think you'd need to do the whites. That would fix it. So we're just going to have to do 2 variations. I mean, this is going to work on almost any color as long as we have those variations. This will work on black, won't work on white. Yeah, I think this is good. Okay, so let's finish this up. Let's do image trim, transparent pixels. Okay, and then we're going to look at our size. So we're big. That's good. And we're going to go 15, right? So this is going to be like our original. Hang on, Control Z. That's not the right thing to do. Trim it. Do a canvas size. Give it like 500 pixels around. So you got some room. Okay. And then save it. So we're going to save this as, and we're going to put it in our folder. And we're going to say Scott Farm Treats. I'm going to call it badge logo because that's kind of what this is. And I'm going to call it original. And then we can make some variations with the actual like printed artwork. So let's do a trim. And then we'll go for our destination size, which is going to be 15 inches. So this one that I've just created can be used on lights well, and it can be resized because it doesn't have any halftoning going on. So we can just export this and say this is our original, we're going to say it's 4 lights, and we're going to say it's 4500 px, and it's mic RTP. All right, so this one's ready. Don't go in that folder, go in the right folder. And we'll save that there. And that can be printed. Oh, sorry, I left the white on. So we'll export that again without the white. Boom, done. All right, so now if you're really going to put this on white, then you're going to want to do a white knockout on this. And for that, we've got to know the dimensions. That's why we asked what size to do it, because, knowing that at this moment is good, for me at least. So I'm going to do this, 12 inches wide, because that'll be a really nice big image on the front of a shirt. And I'm going to export this, and I'm going to call it halftone ready. All right. And then we're going to halftone it. So we're just going to take this, and we are going to knock out the white. So we're going to open this up. Actually, let's just close all of these things. Close everything. Wow, we've come a long way. And we're going to look at this halftone ready. Let's open that up with Photoshop. And we're going to halftone this for light. So if we want to get all this white out of this, all we have to do is do white knockout tweakable. And so everything that's fully black is going to be really preserved. So I really want to try to get more of her face dark. And we're just going to save all of that. But if we don't let some of it go, everything that's pure white is what's going to actually be, we're going to have to get her face a little bit. So, all right. Perfect. Oh, shoot. Screwed that up. My bad. What I need to do before I do that, let's F12. what I need to do is I need to put a solid color of white behind it. That's the way the white knockout works. Here we go. Up, cancel, cancel. F12, revert, abort. Solid color of white. All right. We'll merge it down onto that white. And then we'll do our white knockout tweakable. Here we go. And now I should have paid attention to my settings. So I'm going to pull this over. So I'm going to put that at 130. I'm going to pull this over. So I'm putting that at 230. We'll do 130, 230. And then the middle one, we do it 0.50. So 130, 0.50, 230. Help me remember that. All right, and there it is. And now it is super soft. So if we put this on whites, that's what it's going to look like. There's going to be some dots on her face. There's going to be some trade-offs, you know. But now you've got just this very light ink. And just to show you what you got, you know, everywhere that looks messy and problematic in this black is now knocked out. And you've got a much lighter design, and it's going to feel great. But it can't be resized. So this image size that it is, 12 inches, is it. All right, so let's export that. And we're going to call this half-toned. I'm going to just take off this badge, this logo word, half-toned. Yeah, and this is for lights. Okay, and you know, while I'm looking at that, I'm going to just show you, you can put this on really light pink, and that's fine. You can put it on any really light pastel, and that's going to be fine, you know. But as soon as you start getting down here, you got a problem. So that's what that image is for. And let's just look at these, make sure this is, we're going to call this is 12 inch. Okay. And then if we wanted to do a 10-inch version as well, we would do F12. To go back to our halftone ready, we'd put our solid color of white behind it. And then we would do that white knockout. And I hope you all remembered what I set this to. What was it? 130. Oh, no, you all know what I did, right? I didn't merge them down. F12. Solid color of white. Pull it below, merge it down, and then go back here, white knockout tweakable. Ah, F12. Solid color of white. Okay, pull it down. Merge it down. White knockout tweakable. And we did 130, 0.50, 230. Guys, I keep screwing this up. It's F12. All right. It's F12. Get it started over again. F12. Solid color of white. Pull it down. Merge it down. Image size. Make it 10 inch. That's what we're doing here, Mike. White knockout tweakable. We're doing 130. We're doing 0.50. And we're doing 230 to match the other one. Okay. And now we can export that. So that's going to be our same as this, except it's 10 inch. Boom. All right. Sorry for all those mistakes. All right. Now, if we're going to do this for black or darks, we're going to want to do the same thing. So we've got our version so far. We have got our version that is set up for lights. Half-toned, super soft on those two. That's the advantage, is it's soft. We've got our original. So this one can be resized and done at any size. And then we're going to go back and we're going to open up our Photoshop document. This is our untrimmed one. That's when we can tell that this is the original because it's got the untrimmed layers, okay? And we're going to change this to have the whites. And we'll look at that on pink. Looks pretty cute. And then we're just going to do image trim, transparent, image size. We're going to go with 15. And so this is a resizable version for darks. Okay, so we're just going to say, original for darks. And that's that resizable original for darks. I would also put that on a pink or anything that's just not like really light white or a light pastel. Okay, now if we're going to do this truly well, we're going to go ahead and we're going to do our image size. I'm going to go 12 inches. I can't imagine that she's going to want to wear a 15-inch design. And we will just export this. And we're going to call this halftone ready darks. I'll just call it darks. Halftone ready. Okay. So now that's ready for halftoning for dark. Okay. And we're going to open that up. We're going to close this. We don't want to save changes to our PSD. That's our true original. And we'll find that darks halftone ready. There it is. Open that with Photoshop. And we're going to do our black knockout tweakable. So here we want to go pretty strong. We're going to go 10 and 100. Just easy math. 10, 100. It's going to preserve most of her face. Okay. And there's your super soft, right? So there's a lot of black in that image. This is what it's going to look like against black. And it is just going to be so soft. Now that I see it, I want an outline. So after I saw it, I realized that she's going to get lost on the black. So let's do this. Let's do open recent and go back to our original. And let's just take our whole character and let's do an outline. We're going to do blending options, stroke, whites, and we're going to do it pretty tight around her here, just like 10 pixels, just enough. And we're going to do our color overlay, turn that on. And then we're going to do our image size, and I'm going to go down to 12 inches. And then I'm going to look at that stroke and see what I got. So let's just turn this on. See if we're happy with that. Yeah. Yeah, I think so. Let's look at this on black. Yeah, I think that's good. That's what I was hoping for, is that highlight on her hair so we could actually see the pretty outline of her hair. Okay. And yeah, let's just run with that. So this is going to be our actual halftone ready. We'll turn off that black, export, and this is going to be our darks halftone ready. Okay. And now we'll open recent. We'll get that halftone ready back up here. It's got that white outline. I can see it. I guess I didn't trim it. So I'm going to Control Z, go back to the size, image trim, okay, image size, 12, okay, look at it, yep, file, export, there's our actual halftone ready, save, yes, we'll close out of this, we're done, F12, well, I guess, file, open recent, halftone ready. Okay. And then we're going to hit that black knockout tweakable. And we're going to go 10, 100. And there it is. Solid color. Let's look at it. Yeah. That's got it. Okay. So we can export this. This one's just going to be like hardly any feel at all. If you put this on a black any kind of dark navy. You got to stay at the really bottom end, like a dark maroon. No problems there. So this is going to be my 12-inch halftone for darks. And then we're just going to hit F12. And we're going to do image size and do a 10-inch version. Okay. And we'll do that black knockout tweakable. And we'll do 10, 100. Okay. And then we'll export that. And this is the 10-inch halftone for darks. Okay. And that's, I think, what I'm going to do for that front. Okay. And so we're just going to copy this. This is going to be super easy, obviously, because there's no work, especially if ChatGPT can do the work for us. We're just going to tell her. And there's my pop prompt. I didn't even try to fix the distortion. Why not? Well, all the elements are just supposed to be square and straight. So it should be able to understand that and give us a straight line. When you're talking about perspective and proportions and a lot more going on with the character design. So we're just going to see if she can pull this off. And if not, we'll fix it. Yeah, and there's the prompt. So prompt changes every single time. People try to write these down and copy them. And it's like, there's elements that I use a lot, recreate and redraw, that lets her know not to try to edit the image. I want to isolate a black design on pure white, rendered orthographically. So, give me a vector traceable output. That's just going to give her more, make it sharp and clean. So that's all we're doing here. And it looks like I didn't click create image, so it's just sitting here thinking. So I've just started again, and hopefully it knows to make an image this time. Okay, just like with everything, we got to check every detail to make sure. Looks like everything's good. I like that these circles are round. She's done a great job. It's not exact, but it's certainly close enough and has saved us, I won't say hours, but at least an hour of time. All right, so let me show you what happens, or we'll test that theory that we don't have to upscale it, because we really don't need to upscale this. It just fails to load. There's something wrong with the ChatGPT generated image that won't load into Inkscape. So we're just going to scale this. We just need 2x. I don't know. There's small detail. We'll go 3 just to be safe. And we'll scale that up. And then we'll put it in our pieces folder. Once it's done. So we'll call this Scott Farm Treats Back Design. I'm going to call it Sign. That's what it is. All right. And I'm going to call it Trace because it's just the trace. And then we'll cut that out of there. We'll put it in our pieces. Save it. And we'll drag it in out of our pieces into Inkscape. Oh, let me just pull this over. Drop her in there. Hit OK. Trace bitmap. Hit apply. There's our image. Delete. And we'll do our other magic here. So we're just going to grab all of this. This is going to be tricky, actually. So I'm going to go in and just save myself some headache. I always struggle with this. Let's make this full screen so we can see what we're doing. I always struggle with, so I'm just selecting the inner and the outer part. So when I got a frame like this, if I break it apart without separating, like what I'm doing right now, Control-Alt-V to paste it in place, then it would break apart. I'll show you what it does. Okay, so I've got that done. So I'll just go ahead and show you. I'll join these and then break them apart. And that's my problem. Okay, and I'm not real sure how to overcome this. So I'll just keep them separated. There we are. There's our separated. This is our outer. And then this, I'll do Control-Shift-K. And I'm just going to make sure that at least some of these main elements are centered. So we're just going to join these up. Just would break my heart to have them a little off center and not realize it until we printed it. And then I'll just center those and we'll see if they jump, and that'll help us. We'll watch it while we hit it. Yeah, they jumped. And we'll just take this, center it, it jumped. That's already one object. Grab all of that, join it up, and center it. And then these we can't center, so we're not going to worry about them. So we're just going to make sure everything is then joined again, but we'll leave that outer part. Let's just grab everything inside here. Should just have two paths. We'll call this one inner. All right, and then we'll just save this. We'll do Control-Shift-R to fit it. And then we'll file save it as, and it's going in pieces. Yep, and we'll call this sign. Boom. And then we'll just finish this off. We can export this. We'll just export it. We'll do 4500 px. And this can be resized to any size. And we'll put it out of our pieces in this Scott Farm Treats. We're going to make it a PNG. And we're going to tell it that it is the Scott Farm Treats Sun Black. Save it. And then we'll just select it. Well, we'll select all of it. And we'll change it to whites. And that would be for your darks. And we'll call this whites. Boom. All right. So it's been about an hour and a half. You know, I've paused a lot. It's about an hour and a half worth of work to create this stuff. And now y'all know how. And one of the reasons I make these videos is so you understand the changes that go through. But also, so you understand the ask, you know, if this lady's asking for 25 shirts, well, this is certainly worth it. Well, if she wants 2, I mean, you know, you just had a $150 an hour graphic designer work for an hour and a half. You got to charge her some money, you know? So, all right. Well, hey, here to help, always here to educate. Thanks for ordering your transfers for us. And thanks for watching my videos. Take care.